Tensura What If? Silver Timeline by CBCTEBAS Chapter 30 Vampire's Farewell. As their faces drew close under the quiet night, they shared a tender kiss. Rimuru's back pressed against a tree, while Luminos's feelings deepened with every heartbeat. Their breaths grew shallow, and Luminos could sense the passion in his kiss, urgent yet tender, as though he never wanted it to end. After a moment, Luminos pulled away slightly, her lips still brushing against his skin. She kissed along his neck softly, savoring the closeness between them. Noticing the intensity building, Rimuru hugged her, and with a gentle smile, teleported them both to Luminos's room. It was a familiar place where they often spent time together, and it felt like the perfect sanctuary for them now. Once in her room, she clung to him, her arms around his neck. As Rimuru carefully placed her onto her bed, their gazes locked. "I think you've had your fun," he said with a teasing smile. "Just a bit more," Luminos whispered, her eyes full of mischief. Rimuru chuckled, their playful exchange showing the depth of their bond. The way he looked at her sent a thrill through her, a look that seemed to see her fully, appreciating every part of her. Following his lead, she positioned herself comfortably, sensing his presence close by. He ran a gentle hand down her back, a reassuring touch that brought warmth. Their evening continued with shared smiles, laughter, and meaningful words, each moment building on the connection they'd forged. Rimuru's caring gestures and Luminos's whispered affections filled the room with a warmth beyond words. As dawn approached, they finally lay side by side, smiling at each other with quiet joy. "I'm ready for round 2, Luminos teased, her energy renewed by their shared closeness. Rimuru laughed softly. "We've got the whole night," he replied, pulling her close. They continued to share these precious moments until morning light filtered through. When a gentle knock sounded on the door, a voice calling for Luminos, she only smiled. "Time to start the day," she said softly, turning back to Rimuru with a smile. "Until next time," he murmured, giving her one last kiss before slipping away, leaving her heart warmed by his presence. Chapter 31 Expedition Montage Inside the mansion of Rimuru. Rimuru, Velgrund, Lei, Enki, and Siren are all sitting in the living room. They are currently talking about how they will do their work. "How many do we have?" Rimuru asked the two former spirit lords. "We currently have a total of 1,780 people to work with," Enki announced. As a follow-up, Siren spoke. The casualties from the Sirens were 65, with about 13 of those coming from the investigation of the water world. For the Enkis that were on the front line, it was a bigger damage than with the Sirens, with more than double the numbers, 155 casualties from the recent battle. That's a bigger number than what I'd expect," Rimuru reacted as he was in deep thought, not noticing the two flinching at his words. "We are very sorry," the two said in unison. Their master's words dug deep into their mind. What did he expect, meaning they didn't meet that expectation. With that in mind, they swear that they'll pursue to be much stronger and train their subordinates. "It's fine," Rimuru simply said, waving his hand. "Anyway, I've talked with Veldanava about what to do with the worlds. To him, they are just prototypes to make the perfect world. In this case, the cardinal world. So he doesn't mind if we wreck them accidentally or with good reasons. Truthfully, he doesn't care. All he wants is to have someone else deal with this stuff." Rimuru just sighed as he recalled their talk. "Hey Veldanava, is it fine if some of the worlds get damaged or destroyed? I mean, there is a lot of them. I doubt it would make a difference if some get wiped out, right?" You're actually taking it seriously?" "I mean, of course. If you damage some, I wouldn't mind, ha ha ha." "Oi! Look at the time, I got to go." "I can vouch for that." Velgrund raised her hand. He never mentioned them before, nor did I notice him even giving them a glance. "I first heard them when a gate appeared in the cardinal world, and when Rimuru first arrived." "That's true, Veldanava-sama never mentioned them, at least not when I am around," Lei added. "Hey, surely this is not him kicking me out, right? By making me busy. Because he doesn't want to deal with me." Rimuru concluded with a frown. The others frowned as well, especially Velgrund, who was supposed to be Rimuru's assigned watcher in case he does something bad. "Probably," she confirmed in her mind. "Speaking of people getting kicked out, where is Jahil?" Velgrund said, trying to change the subject. "Still in his facility doing research. I doubt we could have him watch over some worlds with how much he focuses on his research, Rimuru commented. Maybe give him some reward or motivation? Lei tried suggesting. Like for example letting him in that sacred library of yours for a day. Or closed up his facility if he doesn't work, Enki added, with Siren nodding her head. That's actually a good idea. Rimuru agreed with both of their suggestions. Anyway, back on topic, here all of you get one. Rimuru placed 5 keys on the table. Everyone looked at them and took one each. Rimuru took the last one and started to explain. My new skill allows me to manifest these keys. Rimuru presented. These keys allows the user to specifically open a gate to this universe. Where we are right now. No need for built-in gates to use. Rimuru then took a lock and placed it on the table for everyone to look at. This one, similar to the key, is made from my skill. It allows you to close gates without me needing to go there. It would then transform into a key allowing you to go to the location you closed off. Everyone just looks shocked with just how powerful these items were. And you're giving these to us, why? Asked Velgrund, a question they all wanted to know. Obviously, so we can cover more ground, or in this case more worlds. We'll have to divide our forces. Unfortunately, only you guys are allowed to carry one. Rimuru answered matter-of-factly. Keep in mind that after collecting the keys of the gates, return here and install them to one of the unoccupied doors in the hallway. Just inserting the key to the keyhole and turning it should be enough to install it to that door. How can we go through the worlds we haven't been to? Lei asked, holding her key. Good question. The answer is, luckily or unluckily, most of the worlds nearby are connected one way or another by at least 2 to 3 gates each world. So when you go to one world, you have 3 other worlds to go to next, and so on and so forth. Rimuru answered. Everyone showed a mixture of negative emotions on Rimuru's words. It is basically never ending if they multiply as they close more gates. Don't act too down. Your jobs will mostly just be closing and opening gates, since the other Enkis and Sirens will deal with any problem in the worlds. As you travel around closing the gates everywhere else. You can even assign them to return home and be the one to install the new gates to the hallway. They then further elaborated their plans going forward before finally starting their missions. Each one of the 4 of them have 445 people with them to be the one handling the affairs of the worlds they pass through. Meanwhile, Rimuru remained alone, insisting that he can do it alone and much more efficient to have the other Enkis and Sirens to the others. They all started with one gate. Rimuru opened the closes he can detect for the 4 of them and the people with them. Once everyone has passed through, he opened a gate for himself. Stepping inside, he could already see the destruction of having a gate opened between these 2 worlds. A war between 2 races, one of which is the invader and the other the defender. Rimuru ignored the war happening in front of him for a few minutes to find out which is the inhabitants of this world. And after further sensing, he concluded that the green-skinned beings are the inhabitants, aka the defenders of their world from the human-like attackers. Once he has found out about this, he flew directly into the sky above the battlefield and activated a large flash of light. Getting everyone's attention, he slowly flew down with all eyes looking at him. What is this needless violence? Who here is in charge? Let me talk to them this instant, Rimuru shouted for many if not all of them to hear. He used a bit of his haki to intimidate both sides. A few minutes and one from each side came forward as their supposed leaders. Guga, I am one of the chiefs here. The name is Gur, one of the green-skinned man stated. The one with the metal armor won. I am the general of this army, Sir Noe. You too, what is this war for? Who is the invader and the defender? Guga, these creatures just came out of that hole and started slaughtering my brethren. Gur pointed at the people in armor. By the order of the king, this uncharted lands are to be his property, and the inhabitants his slaves, Noe said calmly. So you're the invaders? I'm gonna need you to return to your world. After which I'll close it off on your end. Rimuru said, looking at the knight. Are you saying you'll get in our way? Noe showed his hand holding the hilt of his sheath sword. I'm saying if you don't go on your own, I'll either force you in or you die by my hands and theirs. Rimuru pointed at the green people. Guga, you're helping us? He asked, confused. Yes, you're just defending your people after all. Rimuru replied, personally, though he doesn't care either way. It's just more convenient to side with the inhabitants than with the invaders. Then you shall die with them." The knight raised his sword and swung down at Rimuru. Rimuru just smiled. It has been a long time since his last slaughter of people without anyone looking. No magic, no skills. He materialized his legendary sword Grey and blocked the swing. He pushed it back, knocking down the knight off his feet. As the knight stumbled down, Rimuru cut his head. "Listen up. Last chance, retreat now or face death." Rimuru shouted, holding the army general's head. The soldiers were unnerved but continued their attack. The captains and others that have a higher standing than average soldiers started commanding them to push forward. "Well, looks like they won't give up. No choice, let's do it," Rimuru said to the chief, in which he nodded, brandishing his weapon. Rimuru started slashing through the army little by little, enjoying the moment. Collecting the souls of those that died, the numbers have already reached the thousands in less than 5 minutes. Wonder how the others are doing at the moment. Meanwhile, on the side of Lei, in a world where everything is covered in moss. One of the Enkis touched the moss. Soon he felt weakened by it and removed his hand. He looked at his hand and moss started growing from his nails to his fingers and continued to crawl more in a matter of seconds. Soon his entire body is covered in moss, making him a part of the scenery. One of the sirens checked on the Enki infested by moss. Lei-sama, his died. His magicules have been sucked dry, he's now an empty husk. Lei sighed. "Be careful next time, all of you." Lei looked at the world for a bit before looking at one siren and one Enki. "You too, look into this world." Without even checking for the two's acknowledgement, Lei started flying to find the gate connected to the one they're on. The others followed suit, leaving the two alone to do their job. The two started analyzing the area. They looked through the greenery of the forest and the moss covering it. Lei and company arrived at where the gate is after several minutes of searching. She clicked her tongue as she saw that the other side of the gate is covered in moss and greenery as well, showing that the other side has been affected by this world's natural phenomenon. It is already too late for this world's to be saved. On the other side you could see building-like structures covered in moss. Bodies of those who lived in them also litter the ground. All are dried up by the moss that covers their bodies, sucking on their moisture, with them being alive as long as the moss has enough moisture to take in from the host. Every living being in this world has already been covered by the moss. No saving can be done for them. "You two, burn it all." Lei ordered two of the Enkis, before closing the gate to the moss world, and started looking for the next gate in the infected moss world. The Enkis meanwhile started using their flame magic to burn all the mosses in the area. They could only burn the moss covering the world and letting nature return everything back to normal. In Siren's side, she could see several ships being burned and damaged. The crews in them seemed to be fighting something very large. She used her senses and realized the monster lurking just under one of the ships. "Siren-sama, we've lost contact of one of the sirens sent to investigate underwater," one of several sirens that emerges from the water stated. Soon it came out and took a large bite of one of the ships. The large serpent-like creature not even registering the meager attacks of those on board with their spears and cannons. It just continued to crunch on the ship before it collapses. The people in them started shouting and crying as they fled and jumped to the ocean, abandoning their ship. "You 5 should be enough for that." She pointed at 5 of the sirens with her. They nodded their heads and went to where the monster and the ships were. "All right, everyone, scatter. Find the next gate and contact me when you find them." Siren ordered the rest of those with her. In Enki's side, in a deserted land with no living plantation, two armies are facing each other, one of which consisted of allied soldiers of the surrounding nations. The atmosphere was tense, each one of them knowing this would be their final resting place, to protect their families. On the other side is an army consisting of creatures of the undead. Their forms look to be that of soldiers. This is not a coincidence, as there was an advance party supposed to investigate and eliminate the invaders of the gate, consisting of thousands of soldiers. The very faces of their former comrades are plastered as new bodies for the enemy undead armies. And from the very back of the undead army is a lesser lich, a being that is much more powerful than this world has ever known. It can turn corpses into moving undead that follows its orders, and can spellcast corrosive and miasma-infested dark magic into its enemies. Enki is looking at the battle atop one of the large mountains with the group he has, half of which is gone looking for the next gate after this world. "The Enki we've sent to finish the lesser lich has died, Enki-sama," one of the subordinate reported. I see. Enki took in the info of one of his subordinate dying. It wouldn't matter if I joined, right? Enki said to no one in particular. The ones with him have no right to voice their opinion on the matter. Fighting that one seems fun too. He grinned looking at the lesser lich. Enki-sama, we have found the gate where the undeads came from. With those words heard from his head, he smiled even wider, turning to his subordinates. All right, the gate has been found. Let's kill those undeads. He jumped as the others followed. You two will take care of the aftermath here. He pointed to one Enki and Siren. On Velgrind's side, the one with the most hardship out of all of them. In a castle atop a floating island, the people residing in it flourished, for more than 1,000 years. In one of the rooms in the castle is Velgrind, in a very sour mood as the king and his son talk to her. Do you like it here? I do hope you're enjoying your stay, the king said as she looked at Velgrind. If you want, you could have this all, the prince said, hinting at Velgrind, which just raised her ire more. Weren't we discussing where the gate is? She said, trying to return them to the subject. Yes, it was a meeting discussing the cooperation of this kingdom. Who knows where the gate is? It seems to be in a place where detection cannot reach, but manually see it in person is the only way. Now, no need to rush. We can take our time about that. For now, what do you think about my son? The king brushed her question off and started mentioning the prince who was with him. It should be easy to guess that the prince had been infatuated by Velgrind and is looking to court her with the help of the king. The Enkis and Sirens with her are already shivering in fear of when Velgrind will release her anger, mentally and physically steeling themselves for the impact. The talking continued until she finally had enough. That isn't what I came here to do. I have been given a job to finish and you people are hindering progress. Velgrind stood up, banging both hands on the table. The prince was somewhat jealous of the person that Velgrind listened to, that he let a comment slip. Who in the right mind sends a beautiful lady like you away from them? They must be quite stupid to even think of doing that, he said with a frown. Velgrind froze for a second at his words, then veins began appearing in her forehead and the heat temperature in the room began to rise. Velgrind-sama, we have found the gate, one of the Sirens ordered to search the area informed her just in time. Very good, everyone else go there right now, you have a minute, Velgrind informed everyone. The people with Velgrind immediately stood up and started flying off. The king, prince, and the other people in the room were bewildered by the event that had just happened. Meanwhile, inside Velgrind's head, 57, 56, 55. 54, the anger that she is feeling is enough to blast everyone and the entire castle ablaze. 49, 48, to think someone would actually disrespect Rimuru like that in front of me. He's not even strong. Is this how Rimuru felt when Kronos disrespected us? 33, 32, 31. I could kill you all right this moment and no one would be alive to have proof you lot exists. 1,000 years of peace? How about permanently? 26, 25, 24, 23, 22. What happened to your companions, Lady Velgrind? Asked the king as he looked at where the Enkis and Siren left from. 14, 13, 12. Did something urgent happen? Rest assured. Unlike that someone that orders you, I'll help you with all of my power, the prince said, pounding his chest with his fist with a smile. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Scorching disaster, global version. The attack was supposed to be a single-pointed attack with an area effect on the environment. This one is a modified version where the effect on the environment is the focus and amplified even more. The flames started covering the world in scorching flames. The worst part of this disaster is that the flames do not have the heat to burn you instantly. They are modified to only have the heat to burn your skin without actually burning you into cinders. Which means everyone has at least a minimum of a few minutes to experience the flame touching their skin, before dying. Back to Rimuru as Rimuru finally closed the gate and either kicked out or slaughtered the remaining knights. He was invited for a drink with the green-skinned creatures. He agreed. As he drank, he recalled his previous thought, wondering how the others are doing now currently. They should be doing alright. I mean, it hasn't even been an hour yet.